the author, and one of the questions was about that measurement of the quarter mile. So we hope we'll get answers tonight.
May I respond?
Yes.
There is a very clear definition, section 5093.52 of the Public Resources Code. River means the water, bed, and shoreline of rivers, streams, channels, lakes, bays, estuaries, marshes, wetlands, and lagoons, up to the first line of permanently established riparian vegetation. The change that's going to be made is that it will expand that. It means the corridor of land within 1/4 mile of the segments of the rivers designated as wildland scenic. So that's going to expand it from the brush line that's at the edge of every lake and river, and it's going to expand it out 1/4 mile. So it's very clearly defined there. That's one of the changes that's of concern to me.
Mr. Arnett.
One of our concerns we were asked as a board, when you say 1/4 mile, are you talking basically horizontal distance, straight as a surveyor would measure, or on the slope? Because if it's on the slope, it'd be a lot less. If it's measured, it probably would be done as a surveyor does, 1/4 mile straight. Here in a river canyon, it's a lot farther. If you're walking 1/4 mile, you're probably, if you walked 1/4 mile on the land, on a 45-degree slope, you'd probably be walking, you'd probably have to walk twice as far as you would almost, as maybe horizontally.
Would you pass the microphone back down to, I'm sorry, down at this end, your turn.
Under surveying rules, like Brian said, it's adjusted for the steepness. So if you're going 1/4 mile away from the edge of the, whatever the river edge is called, it's going to be more than 1/4 mile straight up the hill. It's going to be plus.
And the bill is not clear.
Can I just rebut something Mr. Mazzano said?
I need to make sure that this lady's question is answered.
She can rebut first. She might ask that.
All right.
What I wanted to remark on is Mr. Mazzani's comment about the definition of river. And I mentioned this earlier, the language in the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act pertains only to wild and scenic rivers. And when Mr. Mazzani cited from the statute, which is in front of me too, he left out a very important phrase. Before all the definitions in the State Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, there is this phrase, as used in this chapter, the following terms have the following meaning. The chapter is the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. It is not every river in California. It is rivers designated in the Act. Thank you.
Mr. O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill, did you have your hand up, or?
Yes.
Yeah,
I was
that's
looking
what I
for
thought. He's waiting for a microphone. Okay, fine. There should be two of them up there. Oh, no, one's in the audience.
I think the microphone is being kept on that in. No, it's very simple. I mean, if you look at that, when it says river, and this is one of the big questions the Board of Supervisors had, river means a waterbed and shoreline of rivers, streams, channels, lakes. That's going way beyond what we would see as being a river. It's not just the main channel of the Columbia River. They're calling, bays, estuaries, marshes, wetlands, lagoons, and streams. A stream is, I mean, I did a lot. Well, 1 minute? 30 seconds.
Just 30 seconds.
Doing logging, a stream can be just about anything that has riparian habitat or frogs or insects. I mean, they can call that a stream. It can something to hop across. It's called a stream. So what is a river? Is it the Columbia River, or is it all the little offshoots from it?
And for clarification, you folks the board have asked for that definition, and you
Yes.
have not received it? Is that correct?
Not yet. That's the $1 million question.
All right, thank you. Now, how are we doing on your question back there?
I still have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Again to Catherine. Is it on? Yeah. If I have a piece of property and I purchased it and it's got a river, we've designated what a river is. We've designated that it's going to go from the beginning of the river or the edge of the river, whatever that is. then what I hear is that I'm gonna lose, if it's mine, once again, I could lose up to a quarter mile of my property. And my question on that, maybe this has to be designated, is a quarter mile then coming right to my property, which then could be half of my property?
Well, let me clarify a couple things. One, this would only pertain if your property was on a designated California
Right, that's
wild
what
and
I'm
scenic
referring to,
river. There are 15 of those. Just to comment on what Supervisor Arnett said, every river in this California Wild and Scenic Rivers Act is very well defined as to from point A to point B where it is. You will not lose your property, ma'am. There's no provision in law that if you have property along a California Wild and Scenic River, even if the river corridor is wider, that you will lose your property. There's no authority in the law that doesn't already exist in law for condemnation. And you will not lose control over it. And the only time the state would be concerned with how you use your river and would have any jurisdiction is if you were to apply for a state permit, a state license, or state funding, or wanted to build a dam on the river. Or if you were going to apply for a state appropriative water right, which you would not need to divert water to your own property under state law.
Joy,
I want to add. Also, it's off. Thank you.
Married to the sound guy.
The battery. We want to be more transparent. Here, with the Wild and Scenic Act, Catherine had talked about 15 wild and scenic rivers, but they went further and they took 2 special rivers, but they were really creeks. It's Mill Creek and Deer Creek, put under the same regulations. When you have a property, you may still own it, fauna, but you won't be able to use it. So you've lost by regulatory controls that could come down against your property. So you'll still pay the taxes on it, but you won't be able to use it for what you want to use it. It'll be for what the state decides is necessary to protect the fish and the habitat, et cetera, and free flowing.
That is not true.
That is not.
all right, that's out of order. That's the second supervisor I got with the gavel.
Their role here.
Apology duly noted. Sir, there's a gentleman back here, if you'll give us your name and address a question to somebody on the board. Or several people on the board.
My name is Gary Rynell, and you've made a difficult task for me. I had a lot of comments, and most of them were about what this panel was supposed to be addressing, and the clarity with which things were presented. So I guess I'm going to just go to a question for Sherry then. Could you cite what would statutorily be restricted from a person's use on their land?
I already gave it to you.
No,
I gave you the law that says the resource director, natural resource director, could designate special restrictions.
okay, let me clarify. The presentation tonight was about changes provided by the proposed legislation today. Now, how has that changed? And be specific about how it would restrict someone's use of their land given these minor changes that are being proposed in this legislation.
Okay, our panel tonight was not just on the bill before us, but there is changes, and it's encompassing the highest and most beneficial use would be preserved in the free-flowing state, and that's section 5093.50. The other part of our panel was to discuss the Wild and Scenic Act, which does apply to any new river that becomes designated. It applies to all the rivers that are designated.
I saw a hand up over here somewhere in the back, did I not?
Could I have the microphone, please, Sherry?
when he gives it to you.
Oh,
Is there a question, another question in
may I
the
ask
audience?
about Sherry's response?
I hear you. I'll be right with you.
All right, Sherry's keeping me from having the mic, and I'd just like to note that for the recording.
When you're called on, you will get the money.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I encourage all members of the panel to keep this from becoming a debate and becoming a personal